My husband Felix passed away at the age of 80, dying a natural death. While sorting through his belongings, I discovered a secret that he had cherished all his life. The person he loved wasn't me, but our mutual friend Mavis. When I woke up, I had gone back to my youth. In this life, I hoped that lovers would finally be united and that everyone could obtain their own happiness. After Felix passed away, my son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren stayed with me for many days. After they left, I began to sort through his belongings. His things had always been simple and tidy. In the deepest part of the drawer, there was a locked box. After prying it open, I found a notebook and a yellowed photo inside. The woman in the photo had an exquisite face with a touch of melancholy. It was Mavis, our mutual friend. On the back of the photo was a line of words in Felix's handwriting: "True friendship provides so long as life endures." Only then did I realize that the woman Felix had loved all his life was Mavis, not me. I couldn't believe what was in front of me. Felix was an exemplary husband, one in a million. He had cherished and loved me all his life and always complied with my wishes. Mavis was even my savior. When I gave birth to my son prematurely and had a massive hemorrhage, Felix happened to be away. It was Mavis who sent me to the hospital and donated 500 cc of blood for me. She had grown up in a poor family and had a weak constitution to begin with. After this blood transfusion, she was always confined to bed by illness and passed away in her 50s, remaining unmarried all her life. Two people who had been so kind to me had been having an affair behind my back all this time. Felix and I grew up together as childhood sweethearts. Our families were similar in circumstances, and our parents were good friends. Felix was intelligent and handsome, and I was also dignified and beautiful. Since we were children, our two families had an unspoken agreement that we would become one family. From kindergarten to high school, Felix and I had been in the same school. We both had excellent grades and were promising candidates for the top 2 universities. In Senior 3, a beautiful and frail poor student transferred to our class. She was Mavis. Mavis had no parents and lived under the roof of her aunt's family. However, she was extremely good at studying and received a national scholarship. As soon as she arrived, our homeroom teacher was very happy and arranged for her to be with us, forming a team of 3 of us and giving us extra tutoring in our studies from time to time. It was at that time that Mavis entered the little world of Felix and me. In my memory, Mavis was weak and often ill. There was always a touch of melancholy in her beautiful eyes, but she was gentle, lovely, and very good at taking care of others. After the college entrance examination, she asked me which school I would choose. Without hesitation, I said that I would go to the same school as Felix. As a result, she chose another one. During college, she seldom took the initiative to contact us. It was always Felix and I who invited her out to play. Felix also introduced her to a part-time tutoring job. After graduating from college, Felix's mother had a serious heart disease. Her only wish was to see Felix and me form a family. So under the advocacy of both parents, we naturally held a wedding. On our wedding day, Mavis came to offer her congratulations and gave me a snow-white pearl flower made by herself. The pearl flower was made with the finest pearls and was extremely carefully and exquisitely crafted. I immediately asked the hairstylist to put it on my bun and had kept it ever since. It was also this pearl flower that Felix requested to be placed on his chest and cremated together with him before he died. I had thought that what he was reluctant to part with was the token of our wedding. Was it actually a witness to his secret love? I frantically opened the notebook, and the truth that Felix had concealed for 60 years suddenly appeared before me. It turned out that in the places I couldn't see, he had already developed feelings for this poor yet strong girl out of pity, and an affection had secretly grown between them. However, the college entrance examination was important, and it wasn't a good time to talk about love. He planned to confess his love to her after the college entrance examination when everything had settled down. But for some reason, Mavis resolutely rejected him and went to another university, gradually drifting apart from us ever since. He tried to meet Mavis alone, but she wouldn't come out. So he always took me with him to see her to ease his lovesickness. Before graduating from senior year in college, he finally confessed his feelings for Mavis to his mother. His mother was so angry that she fell ill and was hospitalized. She demanded that he break up with Mavis and marry me. His mother's heart disease was very serious, and he didn't dare to disobey. Mavis was also unwilling to be with him. He lost the courage to resist and finally chose to marry me. After getting married, he wholeheartedly became a good husband and a good father, burying his love for Mavis deep in his heart. Even though Mavis remained unmarried all her life, the two of them always kept within the boundaries of friendship and never overstepped the line. Mavis's early death made him extremely heartbroken, but he still tried his best to comfort me who had lost a good friend. He swore in his notebook that he would be good to me all his life until he died. And he did. I couldn't stop my tears from flowing. I cried for Felix, for Mavis, and even more for myself. I hated them. Why couldn't they be braver and strive for true love? Why did they keep me in the dark all my life in the name of love and protection? Their supposedly noble sacrifice also cut off the possibility for me to find true love. As far as I knew, my mother-in-law, Felix's mother, didn't actually have any heart disease at all. The old lady lived to be 87 years old, even longer than Mavis. I also hated myself. How could I be so careless and blind? People say that only love and sneezes in the world can't be hidden. How come I didn't notice that Felix loved Mavis in 60 years? I was tired from crying and thinking. Holding the photo, I fell into a deep sleep on the recliner. There was only one thought in my mind: if I could do it all over again, I would surely return Felix to Mavis. I wanted to have a lover who belonged only to me, both physically and mentally. When I woke up, I found myself in a different time and space. I in the KTV. I opened my hazy eyes and saw the young Felix and Mavis singing a song together seriously. Two questions popped into my mind. Was I dreaming or had I been reborn? They were smiling and looking affectionate. Why hadn't I noticed it back then? When Felix saw that I woke up, he threw down the microphone and came over to flick me on the forehead. "You lazy girl. Wasn't it your idea to come out and celebrate our team's great victory in the college entrance examination? How could you fall asleep?" Mavis peeked out from behind him and looked at me, smiling gently with her lips pursed. I had gone back to the time right after the college entrance examination. I remembered that after the college entrance examination scores came out, Mavis scored 701, I scored 697, and Felix scored 695. The top two universities called us one after another to recruit us. Our parents were overjoyed and gave us a lot of pocket money. So I suggested that the three of us go out to celebrate and relieve the tension. It was right here that Mavis privately asked me which school I was going to apply for. I said that I would go to T University with Felix. She didn't say anything and silently chose B University for herself. Could it be that at that time she was testing the extent of my feelings for Felix? I frowned as I thought about it. Felix touched my forehead worriedly and said, "Is this girl so sleepy that she's become stupid? Or is she sick? Why does she look so dazed?" I grew up with Felix. He had always cared about and taken care of me from childhood to old age. I had never thought there was anything wrong with it. But after the truth was revealed, I secretly observed Mavis. Sure enough, when she saw Felix touching my forehead, her expression immediately darkened. I pushed Felix's hand away and said, "We're all grown-ups. Do you think I'm still a 3-year-old kid?" Then I changed the subject. "I want a Coke." Felix smiled and went to the counter to order drinks. Mavis looked at me, hesitant to speak. "Luna, what's the matter? Which one of T University and B University are you planning to apply for?" Here it came, this decisive question. I pretended to think carefully. "Felix will definitely go to T University. It's been his dream since childhood. As for me, I want to go to B University." She was surprised. "Why?" "B University has a stronger humanities atmosphere, a more beautiful campus, and a more romantic temperament. Most importantly, I'm majoring in liberal arts, and B University is the best in the country." She looked at me questioningly. "Don't you want to go to the same school as Felix?" I couldn't help laughing. "We're not Siamese twins. Why should we be tied together? He has his considerations, and I have my preferences. Besides, The two schools aren't far from each other. We can come out to play when we don't have classes, and we can still go home together during holidays. I affectionately took her arm. As for you, which one are you going to apply for? Whether you choose one or the other, you won't be lonely with either Felix or me. Mavis smiled softly, her eyes brightening. Just as she was about to speak, Felix came back. What were you whispering about? We were discussing which school to apply for. I want to apply for B University, and you will definitely go to T University. What do you think Mavis should apply for? Felix glanced at her and said hesitantly, it depends on Mavis's wishes. In my opinion, Mavis is better at science and should go to T University. I exaggeratedly put my arms around the two of them. I'll come to T University to play with you two in the future. You two should get along well and don't quarrel. After I got home, I thought about it over and over again and still felt a bit strange, even if Mavis was self-abased, sensitive, gentle, and kind. But now Felix and I weren't in a romantic relationship. Why would she give up their budding love just because I wanted to go to the same school as Felix? Felix wrote in his diary that during these days of applying for universities, Mavis rejected his confession and then applied for B University and gradually became estranged from us ever since. Something must have happened to Mavis during these days that neither Felix nor I knew about. I remembered her mean aunt and her alcoholic uncle, and the more I thought about it, the more worried I became. Could it be that the couple had harmed Mavis? I wanted to talk to Mavis and get some information out of her. Seeing that it wasn't too late, I told my parents and then walked towards Mavis's aunt's house. Mavis's aunt was a nurse and sometimes had to work the night shift. I looked through the window from outside and saw that only her small room had a dim yellow light on. I came to the door and knocked. Unexpectedly, the door wasn't closed properly and opened with a knock. I was startled. Just as I was about to reach out to close the door properly, suddenly I heard a strange sound coming from the quiet room, as if it was a muffled sob through a quilt. The hairs on my body stood on end. Several major burglary and homicide cases flashed through my mind. I was also afraid that I was being overly sensitive, so I kept my mobile phone on the screen where I could dial 110 at any time and bravely walked into the room. In the pitch darkness, only the door of Mavis's room was slightly ajar, revealing a glimmer of light. I whispered Mavis's name as I tiptoed over. I was really afraid that her aunt or uncle would suddenly appear and mistake me for a thief. The closer I got, the clearer the strange sound became. I pushed the door open and at a glance, all the hairs on my body stood on end. Mavis was lying on the bed with disheveled hair and her clothes in disarray. Her hands were tied up with the sheets, and her mouth was gagged. She was struggling vigorously and whimpering while a wretched man was lying on top of her, pulling at her clothes. I was terrified. Without thinking, I immediately dialed 110, reported the address, threw my phone aside, and rushed over. I picked up a thick book and hit the man hard on the head. Asshole! Let her go! I shouted, the police will be here soon. The man reeked of alcohol and raised his head drunkenly. To my shock, it turned out to be Mavis's uncle. In my astonishment, I hit him on the head again. Brute! Disgusting beast! The drunkard swayed from my blow and loosened his grip. Taking the opportunity, Mavis kicked him off the bed with a powerful thrust of her legs. She quickly shook off the bed sheets wrapped around her hands, pounced on him, and started punching and kicking him. Although the drunkard was very drunk, he was still an adult male after all. Gathering his strength, he cursed and swung his fists, hitting us hard. Stinky beach, useless slut. I've raised you for so many years. What's wrong with asking you to keep me company? Your aunt has run away. Where did you find this meddling little bitch from? My hair was all messed up, and all the nerves in my body were numb. I didn't feel the pain of the punches on my body, nor was I afraid. I just gritted my teeth and scratched and hit him with whatever I could grab. Just as the fight was heating up, a long, strong hand grasped my fist, and a particularly pleasant male baritone voice said beside my head, "It's okay now. Stop fighting. The police are here." I dazedly raised my head and saw Mavis crying messily. Then I turned my head and saw a police officer, a young and extremely handsome man with deep-set and good-looking eyes, squatting in front of me and smiling at me gently. My whole body went limp, and I fell into the young man's arms. Mavis's uncle was escorted to the police station by the young police officer and his colleagues. Mavis and I also went to the station to report the situation. Sitting in the police car, we checked each other's injuries. There were still red marks on Mavis's mouth from the tape, and her whole body was covered with bruises and purple marks pinched by that beast. One of my eyes was swollen from a punch I didn't even know when I got, and we hugged each other and burst into tears as we talked. I thought to myself that I now knew Mavis's secret. In her previous life, the reason Mavis didn't accept Felix's confession was that on that night, she was raped by her beastly uncle. Since then, she had felt ashamed of herself and unilaterally ended her relationship with Felix. Until she passed away, she never had feelings for any other man again. I couldn't hold back my tears. Fate was too cruel to Mavis. She had no family affection, and her love was brutally destroyed by that bad guy in such a cruel way. She lived a lonely and desolate life and passed away at an early age. She was so eager for a family and love. She lived such a difficult life, but she always strictly maintained the boundary of friendship with Felix and never betrayed me. On the night when I had a premature delivery and massive bleeding, Felix was on a business trip in Northern Europe and couldn't come back. In a panic, she sent me to the hospital. Although her face was as pale as paper, she still donated so much blood for me. Even real sisters might not have done as much. I thought that it wasn't just fate that brought me back, but also Felix's obsession. Otherwise, for such a cautious person like him, why did he keep that diary and photos and never destroy them when he had so many opportunities? I'm a person who can take things easy. In my previous life, since Felix married me, he had loved me, cherished me, taken care of me, spent all the money he earned on me, and accompanied me to travel around the world whenever he had time. After we had a son, he was a gentle, responsible, and good-tempered father. He took on the upbringing and care of the child all by himself and never let me worry about it. He treasured his love for Mavis in his heart and never did anything to betray me. So what if he didn't truly love me? He was much better than those men who claimed to be in love but did all kinds of bad things. I didn't have the slightest resentment towards him, nor was I jealous of Mavis. Their lifetime of suffering had brought me happiness. What else was there for me to be dissatisfied with? However, now that I knew that Felix didn't love me, my self-esteem wouldn't allow me to continue standing between him and Mavis. They had been kind to me all their lives, and it was time for them to be kind to each other. And now, I'm healthy, smart, young, and beautiful. A bright future is slowly unfolding before me. I want to spread my wings and soar in this wonderful world and find a like-minded and soulmate lover in the vast universe. As an outstanding person like me, I should also have my own true love. With one of my eyes swollen, I squatted in the corner of the police station lobby, sometimes crying and sometimes laughing. A bottle of warm Lulu, a brand of beverage, was placed on my head. Looking up, I saw that handsome police officer. I already knew his name was Ethan. "Student, I asked you to call your parents. Have you done that?" I blushed a little. "I've already called them. My parents will be here soon." Officer Ethan had short hair and looked a bit stubborn, but his smile was very warm. "We've informed your school. Your principal and head teacher will come over soon. Let the adults handle the future matters. Kids don't need to worry about it. You protected your friend. That's really great." I felt like crying again, but I held back. What happened later was quite simple. My parents, our principal, head teacher, and Mavis's aunt all showed up. When my mother saw my black eye, she burst into tears. My father's eyes were red with anger. He kept stroking my head, and a few strands of my hair were even pulled out by him. The principal negotiated with the police officers. The head teacher hugged Mavis and cried. Mavis's aunt made a big fuss, saying that she didn't know anything as she was on the night shift and that it must be Mavis's fault for not being a good girl and seducing her uncle. She was severely reprimanded by Officer Ethan before shutting up. Then came the investigation. Mavis and I gave our statements and provided evidence. The police officer brothers then let us go home first, saying that they would file a case for further investigation later and transfer it for review and prosecution after getting the results. Mavis's beastly uncle was finally sentenced to 7 years in prison. Her heartless aunt lost her job and was too ashamed to stay any longer. She didn't know which city she went to work in. That's another story. I took Mavis back home. Felix didn't know about our thrilling experience until the next day. He was dumbfounded, feeling both pain and regret. One moment he complained that I didn't call him to go with us, and the next moment he blamed himself for being so careless. I smiled, but it hurt when I did so. All right. You would have been beaten up too if you had gone. It was Officer Chen who saved us. Mavis also smiled. It was Luna who saved me. Luna is my angel. I'll be nice to you for the rest of my life. Felix looked like he really wanted to hug her but was too embarrassed, and his face turned bright red. I smiled and reached out to embrace both of them. I caught a glimpse of Felix putting his hand on Mavis's shoulder along the way. You two are also my angels. We should be nice to each other for the rest of our lives. Mavis lost her source of livelihood. Felix and I accompanied her to work part-time and gave her all the money we earned. But this wasn't a long-term solution. Besides, she still had to pay for her tuition. Fortunately, our school had a cooperative relationship with local Star Enterprises. Mavis had excellent grades and was admitted to the top-notch T university in the country. The enterprise was willing to sponsor her living and study expenses for 4 years. At the beginning of the new semester, the three of us officially became college students. The feeling of going to college again was a pleasant surprise after losing it once. In my previous life, I just followed Felix every day and hardly enjoyed the wonderful college life. In this life, I was busy with studying, participating in competitions, joining various clubs, and making friends of all kinds. Mavis was also busy. She was busy working to earn money. She and Felix were in the same college but different majors. She still ranked among the top students in her studies. Besides, she found a tutoring job in her spare time and earned a good income. In contrast, Felix's life was much more leisurely. He joined the basketball club and played basketball whenever he had time. He was handsome, good at playing basketball, tall, and had long legs. For a while, he became a little celebrity on campus. One day, while I was having a meal, Felix called and said that his mother had sent me some local specialties from his hometown and he was bringing them to me. When I went downstairs, I saw him standing in front of the building waiting for me. He looked like a graceful and charming young man. For a moment, his figure overlapped with that of Felix in my previous life. At that time, he was always waiting for me at the entrance of the dormitory building. Sometimes, we would also invite Mavis to go and have a big meal, visit the park, or study in the library. At that time, I was a fool blinded by love and friendship. But who said that? It's better to be a happy fool than a sober and painful person. A trace of sadness flashed through my heart. Felix saw that I was standing still and walked towards me carrying a big bag. Missy Luna. My mom sent you so many delicious things. It was so tiring for me to carry them here. I was shocked. The bag looked like it weighed 10 or 20 caddies and was full of delicious food. So much stuff. The shipping cost must have been a lot, sure. My mom said it was all for you. She only left a little bit for me. He stretched out his hand to show a little bit, and said half jokingly and half jealously, "My mom really loves you so much. She repeatedly told me not to keep it all for myself and that I must bring it to you and take a picture to send to her for verification." I smiled. "I'll call Auntie later to thank her. Auntie is much more careful than my mom." My mom didn't send me anything. What did Auntie send to Mavis? Oh, nothing. This time it's all for you. Maybe she'll send something to her next time. Felix said indifferently. I was a bit startled and vaguely felt that something was wrong. In high school, Felix's mother had always been very kind to Mavis and sympathized with her. She often cooked big meals and asked Felix to invite Mavis and me to go home for dinner. But Felix's mother and my mother were friends for many years, so it was normal for her to like me more. Felix grinned. I'm going to participate in the inter-college basketball game this Saturday. I invite you to come and cheer for me. Mavis is coming too. She's changed the time of her tutoring class. Wow, Mavis is really nice to you. I winked and nudged him with my elbow, teasing him. He laughed and then greeted me and ran away. In the blink of an eye, it was Saturday. Mavis and I walked into the stadium hand in hand, immediately attracting the attention of most of the people present. I held my head high triumphantly, thinking that Felix was really lucky to have two such beautiful first loves. Others would surely be envious to death. Mavis was a bit nervous and slightly pursed her lips. She was slim, fair-skinned, and had long black hair that was naturally shiny and soft, casually draped over her shoulders. She wore a simple white dress and looked as elegant and charming as a white lotus in the wind, making people feel an urge to protect her at the first sight. Felix's teammates gathered together, looking at us and pointing, bursting into laughter from time to time. One of the gazes stared at us boldly, which was impossible to ignore. I frowned and looked over. It was a girl with bright eyes. She was wearing a modified tight team uniform, looking youthful and fit, with her fair thighs and waist exposed. When she noticed that I was looking at her, the girl gave me a big smile and then rolled her eyes at Mavis disdainfully. What's the meaning of this? I got angry and pulled Mavis, asking her if she knew that girl. Mavis shook her head and said that she only knew that the girl was the manager of Felix's basketball team and wasn't from their college. I was about to say something when Felix had already noticed us. He ran towards us with a bright smile, but was pulled back by the girl in the team uniform. She handed him a bottle of water with a smile and tugged at the corner of his clothes, acting coquettishly. Could this be a romantic entanglement that Felix had gotten himself into? Then why was she only hostile towards Mavis? Did she think that I wasn't as pretty as Mavis? What an impolite woman. I was sulking and didn't give Felix, who came running over, a friendly look. He was overjoyed when he saw Mavis and kept telling us not to leave after the event and to have a meal together with the team. He didn't run away until the whistle blew for the end of the game. I secretly took a look. Mavis's face was delicately flushed, like a rose blooming in the snow, and her eyes were bright and sparkling. She was breathtakingly beautiful. Although I still felt a bit sour inside, why did I have a sense of feeling gratified, like an old person watching the younger generation doing well? After the game, Felix's team won, and a group of people noisily went to have a buffet. Felix paid for me and Mavis, and then excitedly went to get the dishes. The girl in the team uniform was called Lulu, a sophomore senior. She had been observing us. It wasn't until Felix left that she came over with a smile and started a conversation. So you're Felix's good friends? I haven't heard him mention you much before. Oh, she was a bit catty. I also smiled and said, we're childhood friends. We're so familiar with each other that there's nothing much to mention. Felix did say that there was a senior sister in the team who was especially good at taking care of people. He must be talking about you, sister. Lulu immediately dropped her smile and said stiffly, I was born late in the year. I'm only a few months older than you. Don't call me sister. Just call me Lulu. Seeing that Lulu was unhappy, several of her admirers quickly gathered around. It seemed that she was quite the center of attention in the team. Admirer A, Lulu looks like a high school student. She's so young. When she walks out with someone in our team, they look like mother and daughter. Admirer B, exactly. Our Lulu is a youthful and beautiful girl like the sun at 8 in the morning, full of vitality. She can't be compared with those women who are as skinny as chicks and would fall down at the slightest wind. I looked at myself and then at Mavis, and determined that this attack was aimed at Mavis. So I replied, I don't think being fat or thin matters. What's important is being healthy. She's thin and her little face is fair and tender. She's very healthy. Some people are fat and their chi and blood are blocked and toxins can't be discharged. With so many pimples on their faces, they look really ugly. Admirer B, whose face was full of pimples, blushed with anger. Mavis calmly ignored these undercurrents and picked up food for me to eat. Hurry up and eat. Don't just keep talking. Lulu sneered, oh, some people are really hard to figure out. They're like white lotuses. Without saying a word, there are sharp-tongued fools charging forward for them while they pretend to be ladies. They're really good at pretending. No wonder there are blind people who like them. The jealousy in her words was so strong that the air seemed sour. Mavis smiled, put down her chopsticks, and stared at her seriously, saying neither humbly nor arrogantly, emerging unstained from the mud, washed clean by the water without being coquettish. There's nothing wrong with being a white lotus. As long as one is upright and kind, I believe you'll also have really good friends. Come on. Lulu was so angry that she stared wide-eyed. What do you mean? Are you scolding me for not being kind? Are you laughing at me for not having good friends? I've disliked you for a long time. You're a poor student who has no parents and relies on financial aid, floating around pretending to be a saint, luring Felix to follow you around like a lapdog every day. I can't stand it when I see. I picked up a glass of drink and splashed it on her face. You're the one who's Felix's lapdog sister. Lulu was stunned for a short while, then screamed and rushed towards me to grab me. She was held back by her teammates in a flurry. Everyone started chattering and blaming me and Mavis. The admirers were quite civilized and didn't splash me back. They just pulled me and asked me to apologize to Lulu. Felix arrived late, rushed anxiously through the crowd, and grabbed Mavis to ask her what had happened. There were tears in Mavis's eyes. She shook her head and pushed Felix's hand away. I felt so sorry for her. Only then did I realize that Mavis's family background, her beauty, and her low-key and introverted behavior had brought her a lot of criticism. Especially after Felix became popular, his fangirls really disliked Mavis. Mavis must have experienced many occasions like this one today. Felix protected us and helped us run out of the chaos. He told us to leave quickly and that he would take care of the aftermath. I looked at his flushed face and his anxious expression, and I was filled with indescribable anger. I pointed at his nose and said, "Loser." After that day, I don't know what Felix did, but Lulu didn't come to trouble me. However, the three of us didn't get together again for a long time. I called Mavis, and she just smiled gently, persuading me not to be angry. She also explained for Felix, saying that he was so charming that those girls regarded her as a rival in love when they saw Felix being nice to her. I didn't know what these two were up to. Clearly, they liked each other, and the obstacles between them had disappeared. Why were they still playing this stupid game of, we're all good friends, like they were playing charades? But I was also angry with Felix. He was gentle and considerate, and he had a bit of a tendency to be a central air conditioner in our previous life. But I was fierce and strong, and he had a good sense of boundaries after getting married, so I hadn't received any face-to-face provocations from his fangirls. Mavis was still too weak and seemed easy to bully. Soon it was the end of the semester. I was kind-hearted enough to forgive Felix and made an appointment for the three of us to fly home together. Felix was very happy and said that his mother would come to pick us up. As soon as we got out of the airport, we saw Felix's mother standing beside the car waving at us. Felix, Luna. We quickly walked over to say hello. Felix's mother greeted me with a big smile, asking me about this and that and telling me to get in the car quickly. I thought about it and got into the passenger seat, leaving the back seat for the young couple to improve their relationship. Who would have thought that after Felix got in, Felix's mother started the car and was ready to leave? Auntie. I quickly shouted, Mavis hasn't got in the car yet. Felix's mother rolled down the window with a smile and said to Mavis, good girl, Auntie's car is small and there's no room. You can take the airport bus. It's very convenient. Mavis's face turned pale, and her hands trembled slightly, but she still said politely and gently, okay, thank you for reminding me, Auntie. I'm not going the same way as you, so I won't go with you. Mom. What are you doing? Felix shouted at his mother in panic and was about to open the door to get out. Felix, just try to get out. I'm warning you. I have a bad heart. Don't make me angry. Felix's mother quickly locked the back door, and her voice was low and full of anger. In our previous life, she also used this trick to persuade me and Felix. To make her happy and able to treat her illness with peace of mind, We got married right after graduating from university. But she didn't have a heart disease at all. After she retired, she traveled around with my mother as companions, having fun outside every day. She lived until she was 87 years old and passed away peacefully. She was even stronger than me. Where was the heart disease? But if I say this now, who would believe me? Also, why did she suddenly reject Mavis? Could it be that she had discovered Felix's feelings for Mavis and didn't agree with it? Mom, don't be like this. Don't embarrass Mavis, okay? I'm begging you. Felix pleaded softly. Felix's mother ignored him. Taking advantage of her inattention, I opened the door and jumped out of the passenger seat. I turned around and said with a smile, Auntie, I suddenly remembered that I'm carsick and can't take a small car. I'll go take the bus with Mavis. We can also keep each other company. Luna, what are you doing? Come back. I waved at Felix's mother, took out my suitcase, and ran to Mavis, leaving Auntie's anger and Felix's horror behind. She smiled brightly, reached out to hold my hand, and 2 lines of pearl-like tears flowed down her cheeks. Fool, she said. I hugged her. We're sworn friends. I can't let you go alone. She smiled. Let's go take the bus. We held hands and walked forward. Felix's mother's car passed by us with a whoosh. My phone beeped. It was a message from Felix. He said, Luna, thank you. I replied, loser. Mavis had nowhere to go, so she followed me home. My mother was different from Felix's mother. She was very nice to her. She cooked a big table of delicious dishes to reward the 2 of us and told Mavis to make herself at home and not to be polite at all. After we ate and drank our fill, we went back to the room, closed the door, and I started to interrogate her. Tell me what's going on between you and Felix? Mavis thought for a while and said softly, he confessed his love to me, but I didn't agree. The gap between us is too big. In fact, before we went to university, his mother talked to me once. Auntie was very frank. She said that she liked you and hoped that you would be her daughter-in-law. I know my place. But you and Felix didn't seem to have deeper feelings for each other, so? I was greedy for once and pretended that I didn't know anything. I still hung out with you every day. The incident with Lulu last time woke me up. In the eyes of others, Felix and I are worlds apart. If I'm with him, I'll only drag him down. Felix paid some money to Lulu, and when Auntie found out that it was because of me, she talked to me again. She said that she had a serious heart disease and that if I insisted on being with Felix, then I would be the murderer who killed his mother. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Luna, let's just forget it. I was so frustrated that I didn't know what to say. Since being reborn, I had tried so hard to avoid it, but I still uncontrollably became a stumbling block on the path of Felix and Mavis's relationship. I don't have feelings for Felix that go beyond friendship. Mavis, can't you 2 try harder for yourselves? At least, don't regret it in this life. She shook her head. If I really caused Auntie's heart attack and something happened to her, not to mention Felix, I wouldn't be able to forgive myself. I was really at a loss and could only look up at the sky. What a bloody and lousy plot. I tactfully hinted. Today, I saw that Auntie's face was ruddy, and she was full of energy. When she rolled her eyes, she was especially forceful. She really didn't look like she had a heart disease. She shook her head again. Who would joke about their own health? It's better to be cautious. Don't persuade me anymore. Even if I wanted to, Felix would probably back off too. This summer vacation, Mavis and I worked in a coffee shop. Felix came by occasionally. On afternoons when there were no customers, he and Mavis would sit facing each other in long silences. It was really annoying to watch. These 2 clearly loved each other, but they were always hesitant and afraid. They wasted their lives in our previous life and had regrets. And it's the same in this life. Sometimes I also wondered, why did I have to play matchmaker for them? Without Mavis, Felix and I could live a good life and live happily until we were 80. Without me, maybe he could also grow old with someone else and live a harmonious life. Without Felix, although Mavis would be a bit lonely and die earlier, she would suffer less grievances. She wouldn't have to donate blood to me and might not die early. It's understandable that Felix's mother didn't accept a girl who had no parents and was alone and helpless as her daughter-in-law. After all, which mother wouldn't hope that her child's life would be smoother? In the end, was I the only one with an obsession? Or was it that Felix's spirit from our previous life lingered and attached itself to me? Anyway, if I kept worrying like this, the youth that I finally got back would be gone. Time flowed smoothly like water. In the blink of an eye, for years had passed, and Felix, Mavis, and I all graduated. Felix stayed at the university to pursue a postgraduate degree. I entered a large company with excellent benefits but an exhausting workload. Mavis, on the other hand, chose to respond to the talent introduction plan of her hometown government and went back to the enterprise that had sponsored her education, becoming a research and development engineer. Everyone had their own choices and paths to follow. During the summer vacation of our freshman year, before the new semester began, Felix and Mavis had their last conversation about their relationship. Felix said, "I know my mother was faking her illness. But she was willing to pretend to be sick just to stop us from being together. I don't have the confidence to mend the relationship between you two. I'm afraid that in the end, everything will be shattered, and we won't even be able to preserve the last bit of our beautiful memories." Mavis said, "Let's just be friends. Being your friend is much happier than being your girlfriend." They looked at each other and smiled. I, who was watching from the side, was speechless. "What are you two doing? Going back to the beginning like this?" They quickly returned to their previous way of getting along, chatting and laughing without any grudges. Only I knew that neither of them had fallen in love with anyone else. Felix learned to smoke, one cigarette after another, and could smoke a pack and a half a day. Mavis studied even harder and became more frugal. She wore no makeup, just changed between a few clothes, and spent every day in the study room or the library. Nothing had changed, yet everyone was quietly changing. The life of my previous life was becoming more and more like a long-faded dream to me, and the emotions from the past could no longer easily affect me. In my previous life, I was innocent and happy, while in this life, I was fulfilled and joyful. Let it be, I thought. Whether it was Felix, Mavis, or myself, none of us could turn the huge wheel of fate. Without me, without Mavis's uncle, or Felix's mother, perhaps they were fated not to be together from the start. No matter who you're with, your own feelings are the most important. My mother called me on a video call. "You and Felix have been close since childhood. Now you're both staying in City A. He's studying for a postgraduate degree while you're working. You two are such a perfect match. I think you two should just get together." I firmly refused. "Mom, what are you talking about? Felix and I are as familiar with each other as my left hand touching my right hand. Siblings can't have an improper relationship. Besides, he's a poor student who doesn't earn much. Do you want him to live off a woman and marry into our family?" My mother was extremely embarrassed. "You naughty child. What are you talking about?" She slightly moved aside, and behind her appeared Felix's mother with an expression of shock and disbelief. My image as a dignified and ladylike young woman in Auntie's mind was completely ruined. Later, my mother told me that Mavis, grateful for the care from Felix's mother and her during school, often visited them with gifts. Felix's mother was neither warm nor cold towards her, but she didn't care and remained as simple and gentle as ever. Now she was a technical backbone in the enterprise. Her food, clothing, housing, and transportation were all taken care of by the factory. She enjoyed the subsidy from municipal experts. She was thrifty and was truly a low-key little rich woman. She was often received by leaders and commended and was a frequent guest on the local TV news in our hometown. Seeing how outstanding she was, Felix's mother regretted her short-sightedness a bit, but there's no medicine for regret. Once the relationship was broken, it was broken. Felix had been single all these years, and his mother didn't dare to rush him. My mother then turned to me. "Speaking of being single, you weren't stopped by your parents from being with someone you liked like Felix was. Why don't you date anyone?" "No fate, no time, no mood, no energy," I replied perfunctorily. The old lady started thinking seriously. Could it be that you don't like men? I'm telling you, it's not a big deal if you like women, but you can't choose someone from City A. Their living standards are too different from ours, and it won't be easy to get along. I think you should just be with Mavis. Mom! I screamed. You're too avant-garde. Does Dad know about your offensive idea? The old lady was dismissive. Bah, he doesn't understand what true love is. On Felix's father's 60th birthday, both Felix and I went back to attend the birthday banquet. Felix's relatives and friends filled 4 or 5 tables. Felix and I, 2 unmarried young people of a certain age, were the most embarrassed ones at the scene. From time to time, someone would urge us to get married, someone would mock us, and someone would kindly try to push us together. At this chaotic moment, the little angel Mavis made a dazzling appearance. She was wearing a sky blue top and a white skirt, with her long hair flowing down her shoulders, her face powdered and her lips bright red. As soon as she appeared, I could feel the heat of Felix's gaze from beside me. He immediately jumped up and rushed towards her. I missed Mavis too, but I was more tactful and decided to wait until they finished catching up. Besides, the scene of Felix blushing and Mavis being at a loss was quite charming. The female relatives started whispering among themselves. Who is this girl? Is she Felix's girlfriend? No way. I heard that Felix likes men. Otherwise he wouldn't have remained unmarried for so many years. Nonsense. Look at how smitten he is. If he didn't like her, I'll change my surname upside down. Come on, sister. Even if you change it upside down, you'll still be surnamed Wang. Mavis walked over, handed the gift to Felix's father, and said happy birthday. Felix's father was so happy that his face flushed, looking as content as if he had just drunk the tea served by his daughter-in-law. Felix's mother was still a bit embarrassed, but she was also very happy and quickly invited Mavis to sit down. Finally, some relatives and friends recognized Mavis, and there were a series of exclamations. Oh my! Isn't this the little girl who was reported in the news and received a bonus from the mayor? It said that she worked on some project, made great contributions and was awarded 1 million. I also said that whoever marries such a beautiful and wealthy girl will be so lucky. The Felix family's ancestors must be smiling from the grave. Felix has been so quiet all this time. Who would have thought that his girlfriend is so outstanding? Felix's mother couldn't stop smiling. It's not certain yet. Don't scare the little girl. Besides, she's such a kind-hearted child. She donated that 1 million and set up some kind of fund in the school to specifically help poor students who can't afford to go to college. I looked at Mavis in surprise, and she winked at me playfully. In places I didn't know about, she had become more and more mature and powerful. It turned out that she had never given up on her feelings for Felix. Instead of choosing to confront Felix's mother head-on and causing a lose-lose situation, she had influenced Felix's mother in a gentle and subtle way, allowing her to witness her excellence and sincerity with her own eyes and winning over the old lady's prejudiced heart. Wasn't this much more decent than a chaotic family war with people cutting their wrists and hanging themselves? I gave her a thumbs up speechlessly. After the banquet, everyone noisily arranged to take a group photo. Felix pulled Mavis to stand beside him, and they were just getting into position. Suddenly, a skinny waiter shouted, "Go to hell," and crashed into Mavis's arms. Everyone was horrified. They rushed to pull the person away, only to see a sharp dagger with a cold glint inserted into Mavis's lower abdomen, and the bright red blood gradually spread. My mind went blank with a loud bang, and the people and things around me seemed to spin back and forth like a silent film in slow motion. I don't know how long it had passed before I heard my own shrill scream, "Help! Help!" Someone came to pull me away, and only then did I realize that I had been holding Mavis's hand all along. At this moment, her lower body was covered in blood, her face was as pale as paper, and she had already passed out. Looking at her, I suddenly and inappropriately remembered that in my previous life, when I had a massive hemorrhage, had she also looked at me like this, had she been as frightened, helpless, and heartbroken as I was now? Mavis! Mavis! Don't die! Felix remained in a kneeling position on the ground, holding Mavis tightly in his arms. One hand was around her head, and the other was trying to press on the wound where blood was gushing out. Someone had already dialed 110 and 120. The police and the emergency medical staff arrived at the scene almost simultaneously. Mavis was immediately rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, and Felix went with the ambulance. I stood there blankly, wanting to follow but not daring to. The criminal was arrested on the spot. It turned out to be Mavis's aunt. Years ago, when her scoundrel husband attempted to rape Mavis but failed, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. She couldn't bear the shame and left for the South. However, she couldn't make a living there either and secretly returned to City A. After coming back, she worked as a waiter to make a living. Years of hardship had made her age a lot, and she wasn't worried about being recognized by acquaintances. She never expected that Felix's father would choose the hotel where she worked to hold the birthday banquet, and even less expected that Mavis would be an honored guest. Looking at Mavis, who had achieved both fame and fortune and was successful in her career and love, and then looking at herself, who was down and out and lonely, the woman was so consumed by resentment that she lost her mind and picked up a kitchen knife and stabbed Mavis. At this moment, she was being held down by the police and was still struggling with a resentful look on her face. I rushed over and slapped her hard. "You beast! What has Mavis ever done to wrong you that you keep harming her again and again?" She screeched, "Her life is owed to me. Without me she would have starved to death long ago. This ungrateful little slut has ruined my family. Why should she be so prosperous? I want her to die." I was trembling with anger. "If you and your scoundrel husband hadn't harmed her you would have already enjoyed the good life she brought. She would have earned money for you, bought a house for you to live in and taken care of you in your old age. You deserve to be in this situation. You're a sinner. Mavis won't die but you can reunite with your dear husband in prison." She was stunned for a moment. Would she really buy me a house? Take care of me in my old age? I sneered, "Keep dreaming. You can have everything in your dreams." A police officer asked, "Captain Chin, can we take the suspect away now?" A pleasant male bass voice came from behind me. "All right, take her away." The voice sounded so familiar. I turned around to look, but all I saw was a group of plainclothes police officers escorting the woman as they walked away. There was no time to pay attention to the inexplicable emotions. My father drove the car and took my mother and me straight to the hospital. Relatives and friends gradually went home. Outside the operating room, only the exhausted Felix, the silent Felix's father, and the quietly sobbing Felix's mother remained. I walked up to Felix, patted him on the shoulder, and pretended to be calm as I comforted him. "She'll be okay. Be strong." Felix looked at me, and his eyes suddenly turned red. Suddenly, the door of the operating room opened, and a nurse said urgently, "Who among you has type A blood? Our blood bank doesn't have enough reserves and it's too late to transfer from the provincial blood bank. It's best to ask relatives and friends with type A blood around you to come and donate blood quickly. I'm type A." At this moment, the arrow shot in my previous life hit the center of my forehead. I understood that whether it was fate or Felix's obsession that sent me back, the purpose wasn't for love but for Mavis's life. If I could save her once, I could save her again. I quickly raised my hand and shouted that I was type A as I rushed over. The nurse took me inside and asked if I could bear to donate 400 cc of blood. I said, "Take 500 cc. It's no problem." Half a year later, Felix and Mavis held their wedding. I was the only bridesmaid. Felix invited 7 handsome college classmates to be groomsmen. The entertainment program at the wedding was that the 8 of us danced a ballroom dance of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, which really made me lose face. After the wedding banquet ended, I stopped the bride and groom who were trying to slip away secretly and gave them a present solemnly. Felix looked at me warily. "What are you doing?" "I've already said that my wife is still in the recovery period and we can't have the bridal chamber pranks." Mavis, who was still wearing a red coat in the dog days of summer, pursed her lips and smiled. There was no trace of paleness or weakness under her gorgeous makeup. I rolled my eyes at Felix. opened the box and showed them a beaded flower. This is genuine Australian white pearls. Each one costs over 1,000 yuan. I really splashed out. I made it myself. Although it's a bit ugly, Mavis will surely like it. In your previous life, you too had a hard time. In this life, you should live a good life. Felix was completely confused and said that I was talking nonsense, while Mavis stared at the beaded flower thoughtfully and remained silent. I waved my hand. I'm leaving. You two take your time in the bridal chamber. Don't tire Mavis out. Then I left the couple behind. I also left behind the inexplicable emotions intertwined between the past life and this life. I was strolling on the street in my beautiful bridesmaid dress and with glamorous heavy makeup. Suddenly, I felt hungry and then remembered that I was so busy at the wedding that I hadn't eaten yet. Looking around, I saw an egg pancake stall at the corner of the street and decided to go and have an egg pancake. The vendor was a tall man with broad shoulders and a slim waist. He was wearing a mask, a white t-shirt, and his apron was clean without a single oil stain. I immediately took a liking to this clean vendor, and it definitely wasn't because of his good figure. Brother, I'd like an egg pancake. Put 2 eggs in it, with leeks on both sides, and add Chinese sausage, wang, a brand of sausage, spicy strips, tendon, and chicken fillet. I want the crispy crust and more sugar and vinegar. The young man visibly became flustered. He answered and then started making the pancake in a flurry. I watched silently as he messed up 3 pancakes in a row. Suddenly, a thought flashed through my mind and I lowered my voice and asked, "Are you an undercover agent?" He looked up at me, just one glance, and his deep and handsome eyes brought back the memories buried deep in my mind. I was tongue-tied and exclaimed, "Officer Chen." He slightly narrowed his eyes and smiled. "I'm the captain now." My long dormant heart skipped a beat. Then it kept pounding so hard that my face turned red and I felt restless and hot. It's really hot in summer. The egg pancake is also delicious. Hee hee. The end.